I trained up the head of sales for a very large type motivational speaker, multi-millionaire speaker. But his head of sales wasn't getting much money every day. And so he paid me for 3 days of training, and he didn't pay me full rate. But what he did, he gave me free access to about 4 seminars run by the boss. Okay. And there were other people speaking there who were really good. And the head of sales had to start with a joke every time.
Oh, not the dreaded joke.
The dreaded joke.
The dreaded joke.
Which has got nothing to do with anything. And I'm sure you've seen, like, we have programs on television. I'm sure you've got them in Oz and New Zealand and everywhere in the world, actually, that you get the Jay Leno type person who gets up at the beginning. Graham Norton is the one who does it here nowadays. And David Frost used to do it here. And they stand up and they take the news headlines and they tell some really weak jokes to start the show. And you just wait for them to stop and start the show. Get the guests on. Oh, you've got Robert De Niro on the show. Don't tell me a joke. Get Robert De Niro on and talk with him. Don't, please, please tell me some really weak jokes which have been written by a joke writer and you don't even understand the joke and you can't deliver a joke. Because the only people who can deliver a joke well are really highly trained comedians. Everybody else, forget it. You can tell a funny story related to yourself, but please don't try and tell a joke. It's not going to work. It kills me every time. And the other thing, I have to confess, everybody, this is a confession from Fergus, okay? If the speaker is in the least bit boring or not interactive, I fall asleep. And I even snore sometimes.
Pardon? I wasn't listening.
There you are, see? Cindy. I was, at a convention a few years ago, right? A professional speaking association convention. And we had this amazing, I'm not going to say his name, but this amazing speaker on stage. And I was in the front row. But the challenge for me was he was speaking at me. He was telling brilliant stuff, but he was speaking at me.
Don't you just hate that?
Stories.
Don't you just hate that?
Yeah.
When they actually also make the generalization and the assumptions and say, you will have come across this.
Yeah.
And there is a part of me which is in no, and even if I have, I'm not going to tell you anyway. Because the general assumptions mean that everyone has that experience, and I'm one of those that, no, not everyone has the experience. A high proportion might have, or a few minority might have, but not everyone.
I know. We've talked about great speakers like W. Mitchell. He's a great speaker. And he goes on stage, he says, have you ever been in prison? And you go, oh my God, because he's got an incredible voice and there's a very slow delivery of an incredible story, which he keeps adapting. And he's been using the same story for 17 years, but he's not complacent about it. And it's his story. And the whole 45-minute speech is a story of his terrible accidents and how he's overcome them and how he's now successful. Okay. So it's a motivational story of his life. And you're gripped all the way through. But you get other people who get up there and so what I want to say is what Wallace C. Wattle said and what Napoleon Hill said, and therefore you need to hang on. It's got nothing to do with you. I'm talking about bad speakers at the moment. I just mentioned a good one who's W. Mitchell, but you get the ones who get up there with a book or talk about a book or the disc system. Okay. I don't even quite know what the disc system is, but I saw someone do a speech about the disc system for 45 minutes. And somebody asked them a question, and they said, just a minute, I need to look it up in the book. What it says here is, okay, if it's not you,
then it's not authentic, and you're not passionate, and if you have no idea, you cannot answer the questions of the audience, because we all know if you want to be engaged with your audience, you've got to know at least 20 times more than what your audience does.
Yeah,
and I think that's where a bad speaker is when they say yes to the engagement, and they think that they could actually wing it with knowing more than what the audience is, when in actual fact they should have actually said no. Yeah, it's not for me, it's not my area, I don't know enough in depth, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's
because the one thing you can guarantee about conferences, most people, if you actually say to them, you've been to a conference, tell me who actually really sticks in your mind out of all the speakers you've heard. Who does it for you? Ian, who's your most memorable person you've ever come across?
Good question, Cindy.
Memorable has to be Tony Robbins.
Okay. Why?
Because his ability to command a crowd and move them for hours on end with all of the emotional triggers that he's driving is exceptional. Like 4, 5, 8,000 person rooms, you do feel like he's talking to you sometimes. And that's a challenge for anyone, and he does it well.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to flip this on its head and say, who's the worst speaker you heard?
Oh, dangerous.
Well, I think it comes down to who. I've heard some really terrible ones who just can't speak at all.
Okay.
But the one I'm going to mention is somebody where it counts.
Okay,
right?
who was the one who really did it for you? That is, don't need to know the name, but I'd like to know why it was really kind of bad for you.
You won't know this name, so the name is irrelevant. This is a corporate leader in an organisation with 30, 40,000 people in it. Wow. So he's a managing director, one of the top 6. And in his presentation style, he was talking about himself to himself. Nothing about the audience he was talking to, nothing engaging the audience, to the point that I wrote a 2-page email to him afterwards going, mate, if you're going to present to us, this is what you need to do to engage the audience and bring us along on the journey. And by the way, I'll charge you a fee. But you cannot stand as a leader in an organisation unless you can, leader requires followers. He gains nothing out of that exercise.
Except for, now, when did you actually hear that?
That was probably 4 years ago.
And when did you hear Tony?
About the same time.
About the same time. Well, what's interesting is that even though he was bad, you still remember him 4 years later.
Oh, yes, but being a speaking coach and thinking of what bad is, that's when bad counted.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of other bad ones where it didn't count and I wouldn't remember their names for...
Oh, absolutely. But you see, this is the one thing that you find with speaking. You either get it really, really wrong. People remember speakers because they've got really, really, really bad. There's something in that that's just hit an emotional chord on the bad, negative level. Or you've got a good speaker who hits an emotional chord on the other scale on a very, very positive level. Everybody else is in between and grey and gets faded out. So what you then have is what they call the suntan effect. So a good speaker will leave you with a positive suntan for ages, but a bad speaker will always keep you in that kind of space for ages. And it's how do you get more good, the suntans as opposed to the frozen lot? Getting more good speakers to come out, and how do we get rid of more of the bad speakers and sort of like getting them so that the experience is that bad? It's not that bad.
I've got a desire to answer here, actually. I hope lots of more people come in the room, and everybody call your friends in, invite them, retweet it, and so on. Okay. Ian mentioned Tony Robbins just now. Okay. I first went to Tony Robbins in 2002, and people outside England won't have heard of Billy Connolly, actually. But my brother had already been twice to Tony Robbins, UPW, and he said, imagine 18 hours of Billy Connolly on stage talking and enjoy it. And my sister, who went once, and I don't get on with my sister, I'm very, very close to my brother, she said, oh, hang your criticism and your well, whatever the word she used was, at the door before you come in. Yeah, okay, well, I'm like Ian, I'll go for it. So the thing about Tony Robbins, and I know Ian's done UPW as well, I just can tell, right, one of the stories he tells is about his first client, okay? And I've been to it 4 times. And he talks about this young man. Ian knows what I'm talking about. He knows the story. And he talks about this young man and the woman he's in love with and the job he wants to get and so on. And it's utterly brilliant. It's 45 minutes long. And remember, I'm related distantly, but she's a family friend, to Dame Judi Dench. I would still say that Tony Robbins is the best actor in the world. You know why? Because he lives the story in the moment every single time. And I've seen that story 4 times, twice as crew and twice as delegate. And it blows me away, his story about his first client. The words, very few words change in the presentation, but he lives it. And you know that song, I heard it today, That Makes You Larger Than Life. Playboy, I can't remember what they're called. I don't do pop groups really anymore. I did when I was a DJ 12 years ago. But it's that makes you larger than life. And Tony actually acts on the stage to it, and he punches his chest and he runs around. And you know, he's living every moment with you. So for everybody in the room, right, good speaker, bad speaker, what Ian was talking about, what you were talking about, Cindy, which is why I've come back in here. Okay, there are 3 ways of doing a speech. Everybody write these 3 words down, okay? At, to, and with.
At, to, and with, absolutely. It's pretty much a bit like when you're doing a contract, isn't it?
You can speak at the audience, you can speak to the audience, or you can speak with the audience. And this is something I know Ian's head's probably going to fall off in a minute from nodding, but when I'm up there doing a presentation, I'm there for them, totally, not for myself, individually, and I know they're answering me in their heads, and I love being there for them. Of course I've got an ego, I can't help having an ego, but when I'm on stage, when I'm doing a presentation, my ego wants me to give them something and to watch their faces change, to watch them learn something. That's why I speak. And yeah, sometimes it's very highly paid. Sometimes I don't get paid anything, but I might get people out of the room paying me. They go, oh my God, can you teach me to have a voice like yours? No, I can teach you to have a voice like your own. And I can show you how to speak well with an audience. And I think it's time for Ian to speak again because he knows his stuff.
He does.
That's why we're always together. Okay, go for it, Ian.
I just said everything.
That's your turn.
100%.
Your turn.
No, the Tony experience, UPW, I've also seen him in a shorter event, what do they call it? Can't remember now, but it's another half-day thing that he does. And you're absolutely right. It's about speaking with the audience, and Tony makes it look fresh every single time.
Yeah.
And that's because he will adapt some of those stories to work in with the audience through the whole show. It's partly audience experience, partly some of his own stories. Yeah. But as a speaker, as you say, you're there for the audience. And one of the things I espouse is that when you're doing a presentation of any form, I'm a very facilitative sort of speaker. So I know I'm moving people from my screen's back to front today, from there to there. And how I get them together, I don't know when I walk in the room. Everything that's happening in the middle, I work out in the room based on where the audience is at, how they react, what they do, what they ask, what they see, what they think, what they feel, going through that whole journey. And being in Australia, I think about a sheepdog. I'm rounding up the sheep to point them back towards the gate. And that's what I'm doing. And
okay, man. Right, yeah.
Absolutely, mate. So you're working the audience to get to that end game, and unless you're doing that, you're speaking at them perhaps, potentially to them, but mostly at them. When you're with them, you can see where every one of those sheep are and find the one that's heading off and bring him back in. And that's where you're working with the audience and listening for what's going on, seeing the fidgeting, seeing the reactions, and really asking questions of them. You made the point before, Fergus, but perhaps a bit softly. You know you're engaging with the audience when you say something with purpose, one of my get quotable points, and then they repeat it in their heads, and you can see them shift as they go,
That's the light bulb moment. I love that light bulb moment when you actually see, like, it's almost like, I get it. Because I have seen audiences have a motivational speaker, for example, and they'll have them going time and time and time again. But it might be the 6th person who just says something in a way that just suddenly ignites them and actually them to go, I get it. Now I understand what this is all about. And that is just...
Yeah, it's beautiful when it happens. I had Robert Stern in a blab about an hour ago now. I ran a blab that was quite creatively called Interrobang Improv. And it was a fantastic little blab.
I so wanted to make it.
Oh, I love improv. I wish I'd been there, Ian.
Well, we're doing it again.
I love doing improv. Yeah, I love it.
We're doing it in a week's time. So get there in about 2.5 hours less than now. But I had Robert Stern in there, and he's a great one for blab. And I gave him the opportunity of 2 minutes, that was his speaking time, to tell us about where blab would be in 10 years' time.
Okay.
And for someone like that, he knows I'll say this about him, for someone like that, he had the chance to say something like, the future of video marketing is building a community. Just something like that. I don't know what the right quote would be, but he needed to get quotable such that a phrase like that would have people nod like you two just did. Right? Even when I said it was something as weak as that, you went, it is, video community.
Yeah.
Someone like Robert needs to get quotable, come up with something like that, even on the fly, then pause and let the audience absorb it and go, that's exactly what's right. And when you're doing that, you're speaking with the audience, not to them, not at them. That's with them.
Yeah. Now, you saying that, Ian, and getting back to good and bad speakers, okay, a lot of people talk about the fear of public speaking, and I've mentioned this before, and Cindy's going to bite her lip because she knows the person I know that she knows, who's a friend of both of us. But people talk about and write books about public speaking being the biggest fear in the world. It is not true. And I'll just briefly say why it is not true. All over Britain and Ireland and Iran, okay, I've asked audiences of up to 1,000 people, which would they prefer to do? Come on stage with me and talk about themselves for 5 or 10 minutes, or land a helicopter after the pilot jumps out the door? Do you know what? Only one person has ever said they would prefer to land a helicopter than do a speech.
Depends on how high the helicopter's off the floor.
No. It's not a little toy. It's a real one, okay?
You didn't say that.
500 feet up. Okay. Oh, my God. So I'm going to tell you a little story that fits in with that, actually, in a moment. Okay. So anyway, the only one person who ever said they'd prefer to land the helicopter was a helicopter pirate who didn't like public speaking. And so what I say to people, one, it's not true. Public speaking is not the biggest fear. It was just a stupid thing done in the New York Times in 1973. And they were asking people like bus drivers, would you prefer to do a speech or drive your bus? And they said, well, I prefer to drive my bus. Okay. Well, not surprising. They wouldn't. I'm trained in speaking. I'd much prefer to speak than drive a bus. Thank you. I don't know how to drive a bus. I would crash. Or a forklift truck or one of those huge transporter lorries. No, I'll go and do a speech to 10 million people live. And I have done in the past. I'm quite happy with that because it's my field. But I won't go and drive a forklift truck. Does that mean forklift truck driving is the biggest fear in the world? No, it doesn't. But also the add-on to that thing, Ian is obviously, he's a voice coach, a speaking coach, a presentation coach, and I know he's very good. And somebody said to me, aren't you worried that on Blab there are 2 or 3 other speakers, like Rachel Resnick, who does storytelling, and the lady she works with, and Ian, and there's a chap called Scott, who's English, but I think he lives in Oz now. Am I worried that there are about 4 of us doing voice coaching type stuff on Blab? No, if the other person's good, I'm very, very happy. I just come on here and share. But also the other thing, if you're there for them, you don't have the right to be frightened. You really don't have the right. And if you are frightened, you shouldn't be there. I know it's harsh, but that's my feeling.
No, really good point there, Fergus. I joked in the chat box about it's not what Morabian said. There are 2 great myths of public speaking. Number 1 is the one around biggest fear being public speaking. As you say, it was a stupid survey that the question was not about what's your biggest fear at all. It was a complete misquote. And the second one's that bit about communication, only 7% of it being your words. The rest being gestures and the like. That's the Morabian one. Morabian myth.
I know. Mm-hmm. And Morabian has tried to say it's a myth. And also, what I say, and he's written stuff all over the world, Morabian, whatever. And he said, please don't take it. It was just a few sentences taken out of context. Now, okay, do you know how I prove that one's wrong? Because they do this, well, it's 58% visual, it's 35% auditory, and it's 7% content. Okay, watch this, everybody, and this is going to be slightly contentious. Okay, I'm going to even take my microphone to my face, okay? Hang on. All right.
Close up.
Okay. Close up with my big fat microphone.
Close up.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've come to your synagogue today, and as you know, I'm dressed perfectly in a lovely suit with a beautiful tie and a wonderful shirt. I've had my hair done, and my voice is pretty good. Now, I would like to tell you all in this synagogue today, my words, ignore those really, but anyway, in my words, I think that every Jew on the planet should be gassed. No, okay, so let's keep talking. How many times do you think I would escape from the synagogue alive? Oh, but hang on, it's only the words. I look good, I sounded good. It's only the words. No, that's rubbish.
Absolutely.
All three are massively important.
Well, the
Words,
interesting thing
sound,
is
and
I
words.
actually try to find the source of that, and actually try and get the actual report where it came from, that people can actually lift that information from, and I can't find it. I find references to it, but there's no actual copy of it. So
I found it once.
Pardon?
I found it once. As things happens, people remove stuff or whatever. But I have found it once, and did you find the real backstory anywhere?
No,
Cindy?
I've seen all the links to it. I've seen people referencing it, but I haven't actually seen the report itself, because the one thing I have found is that people reference things, then they reference that reference. Before you know it, it's completely blown out of proportion. Yeah. So I thought, let's go back to the source again and try and actually get a look at the copy of the source. And I haven't yet found the copy of the source. So
I've read it, and it does speak as a lot of the writers that choose to debate it have found, and that is, it was talking about how do you detect truth.
Right.
And when truth is questioned, what weighting do you put on various factors to judge that? And that's where your body language gives away far more than the words you use. And that's where that, I suppose, 93% comes from. It's everything else, not the words, that you'll use to judge whether what the 7% is true or not. And when there's congruence, what do you rely on?
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. And in actual fact, that also leads very nicely into one of the questions we had a little bit earlier from, I'm going to try and pronounce the name correctly. Is it Janine or Jania? I'm so sorry. It's BK Peach Floors is her Twitter handle. But what she's actually asked is, how should you structure your story, and where or how do you start? Now, if we use what you've just said, then obviously starting with something that is true and not made up or anybody else's story, but something that actually resonates yourself, would mean that your body language would reflect that. Is that kind of what you're saying? Whereas if it's a lie, then again, your body language would reflect that.
That's one thing I'd say. Certainly you want your body language to be congruent with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And just to give you the 50,000-foot view of that, when you're speaking, the best thing to do is to make minimum gestures, except the ones that add meaning to your story. So gestures that are completely congruent at the time, and often slower than you would normally do them in casual speech. You want to make them stick for longer, because you're setting really a feeling with those gestures. But when you're talking about structuring a speech, it goes up 50,000 levels before that. And I noticed the question says how to structure a story. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how particular Janae is being there, but really what you want to do from a structuring standpoint is, first of all, set a scene. Now that scene has many angles to it. Depending on how long you're speaking for. In fact, can you respond there, Janae? How long a speech are we talking about? Are we talking like an hour and a half keynote, or are we talking about a day-long thing, or are we talking about a 5-minute speech?
I'd love her to come in actually, so we can actually have a quick ask for her back. The question behind the story behind the question, really.
Yeah, Janae come in, but I'm so pleased Ian's here, because we've been talking for days. So I love Ian being in this chat because he knows his stuff. I'm very happy that
well, I saw you questioning my bit about Moravian, but that's my version of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You gave me a great description. And Cindy, if you want to find the truth about Morabian, whatever, look up his name, Morabian, and refutes. That's it. You'll have it then. Because he did a fantastic refutation. It's really good. Because he's tearing his hair out with people getting it wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Brilliant. Lovely
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Delighted.
I'm actually thinking about getting into public speaking. I have many stories. I've had for 42 years old, I've had a interest in life, and I just want to know, like I'm asked in a question, where do I start? Like, where do I start with my story?
Okay. There's two parts, I think, to a 10-minute version of your story. The first thing to think about is, what do you want your audience to do at the end of it? What's the outcome that you want the audience to achieve?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's always the outcome.
The action.
Start with that. Then think, where are they right now? Where is your audience at the start? Now, there's a couple of things that could happen. They could be right in the right spot to hear your story, or they may have some difference. So sometimes what you want to do is to set the scene to make them receptive to the story you're going to offer. So you might do an introduction that might be a story in itself, different to your story that you've walked in here today with, but one that educates them to be open to possibilities, or one which says, sometimes you have to hear something from someone else's perspective before you'll understand, and just shape them into a mode where they're ready to hear your story. Okay? That's the first step. Get the scene right so that they're receptive to what you're going to do next. And the next step, which is crucial because you're wanting to talk about your story, is to think about the time. And you've said 10 minutes. It's really hard to do. You might want 20 if you can get it. But what you want to do then is look up something on the internet, or come and ask me about it, follow me and we'll talk about it more, called The Hero's Journey.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. The Hero's Journey is a fantastic thing, yeah.
And then you model your story, even shifting the timeline if you have to use that. Because what the Hero's Journey, whichever school you went to, does, is it takes the audience on a journey, a story that we're very used to. And one thing it does is it builds suspense. It builds suspense in a way that gets people wanting to know what the solution is. And then once they understand that that solution is yours, they'll go, and follow you on to where you want them at the end. So use the hero's journey and model your story against it. So you build that suspense up, and when you get your answer, their pleasure senses are triggered, and they go, wow, that's the answer I want to take away. I'm going to do the action that you want them at the end. So that's the 2-minute answer to your structuring of your presentation.
Well, thank you. That was great. And I'll definitely look into, incorporating those points when I do start speaking. I'm even coming on a blab. This is my second blab today, and I've never, spoke on a blab before. So I'm trying to, thank you, Cindy. I'm trying to, get my feet wet, and I'm even starting to look into doing periscopes to hopefully,
well, in that case, then I will step in and say, what's the strategy? Why are you wanting to speak? Because whilst these two guys will tell you how to speak, and bringing in the point earlier about Toastmasters and these guys are absolutely brilliant on helping you to speak and get your craft and stage and put yourself together. But I'm the person at the end who then tries to place you with the audiences. And my question would be, why do you want to speak? What's your end game? What's it all about?
My end game is to help others that may have had similar situations that I've gone through in my life. Dealing with a mom, growing up with a mom that was on drugs, being the oldest child. I've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease for 21 years now. I've been in abusive marriages. And now I also have a 4-year-old that has autism. So I have a lot of stories to tell. It would depend on my audience as to which one will be told, but I want to help someone else. If what I went through, this is my prayer to God every day, if what I went through in my life was to help one person, then it was worth it.
Okay. Well, in that case, then, my question to you would be, what would that help be? Because just talking to somebody is one thing. But if you don't then have a backup plan of what you're going to do, so like both Ian and Fergus have said that how they work. So Fergus has already said that he'll go in, he'll speak, and he knows he'll pick up some people from that audience, that this is how he's then going to work with them afterwards. If you're not got your after plan of what is going to happen, who it is you can help and how you can help them, even if it's just a charity and saying, right, I'm going to open up my house and have a cup of coffee with them and give them 30 minutes respite once a week, if you have no plan of action and you have no idea what it is, the outcome you want, then you will never get the audience that you want, or you might just end up talking, but you won't be actually helping anybody. Because there's because even though you have action plan and a follow-up for your audience, you've got to have an action plan and follow-up for you too. Because the last thing you want is, let's say you go in, you give the speech of your life to 100 people, and 100 people say, great, what's next?
Right. Well, the next part would be hopefully offering them my, because I believe I have a knack, been blessed with being able to connect with people and help them to say, okay, this is what you've been through. So now how do you this is the steps that you may need to take to get out of it. So if you was in an abusive relationship, finding help, talking to someone, knowing the places to go in order to, get the services that you need. If you grew up with a mom that was on drugs, the places that are out there to help, people deal with those things. If you have a chronic illness like I have, okay, these are the places that you can go. These are support groups and, things that you can look into. If you're dealing with a child with autism, I'm still overwhelmed by all of the information that's out there. Thank God that my child is fully functional and I don't have some of the issues that some parents do have as far as, the severity of their child's autism. But there's still a lot of things that are out there to learn. People that you can speak with, groups that you can attach yourself to, questions to even ask your doctors. Because at first, in the beginning, when I didn't know, I wasn't asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
So that would be what, I don't know if that was a good answer to your question, but I think that would be my
okay. As long as you've actually got a reason why and what that follow-up is. So imagine, and this is one of the things that I kind of do when I'm looking and to working with speakers for clients and audiences, is what is your message? Who would appreciate that? And where are those people? And if you know what your message is, then you kind of think, well, who would appreciate this? And that's when you can then work back and then you can start saying, right, okay, if my message is for marketeers, then I need to go where the marketeers hang out, be it in their conference, their little networks, in their breakfast meetings, wherever it is, because then you're niching. But if you can't work, if you then think that your message is so general that everyone needs it, then you've missed the point. Because obviously there is a certain sector of people that you need to get to.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's honing down what it is you're talking about. But then people like Ian with the hero's journey, people like Fergus with how to present and put that together, Toastmasters, which will then teach you how to put everything together very quickly and put you on the spot. They're all the tools that will help you get to the place that you need to be. But please do bear in mind, speaking is an extreme form of marketing and it's still a business. It's part of your business. And if you're not going to treat it as part of your business, but no more than a place just to get it off your chest, then you'll find you'll end up in all different weird areas. Now, Sevilla, sorry, I am so bad with names. I really do apologize. Did I pronounce that correctly?
That's perfect.
Okay, so you were saying that you had a question a little bit earlier, and let me just find that. You were saying that
I think I originally asked how you guys felt about Toastmasters.
You did. Well, Toastmasters, I find, is a fantastic organization for people who want to speak but don't know where to start with the basics. So, for example, stage crafting, how to put together a speech very quickly in certain formats, because you can do different styles. Was it present?
Tabletop.
That's it, all those type of things. And they're very quick at being able to tell you on your bad habits, you know. And so they're all great for those. However, it's the next stage organizations, like over here in England, we have the Professional Speakers Association. Out in America, you've got the National Speakers Association. They're the group which won't tell you how to do your stagecraft, but they'll tell you what to do with it, and how to use it to accelerate your business. So the two of them go hand in hand very well together. And they both have their good points, they both have their bad points. And it's recognizing that part and what bits you need from the organizations. But then that's the same with any membership. They've all got their good and their bad points, and it's just making sure it's right for you at what you're trying to do. And
I would say, I'd come in here, Sevilla, I am what's called a CTM.
Show off.
A competent Toastmaster. Okay, I did the first 10 speeches, and they do provide you with very good books. And the good thing about Toastmasters is that when you go along to the meetings, you've got to do all sorts of different jobs if you're going to do it seriously. So you'll do grammarian, you'll do timekeeper, you'll do Toastmaster, and you'll do speeches. And the speeches are on 10 different topics. One is vocal variety, one is stagecraft, and the books at Toastmasters are really worthwhile. I mean, they're really good. I only joined Toastmasters, having been speaking and on the radio and everything since 1955, Sevilla, long before you were born. It's true. It really is true. Sorry, it's true. My ex-wife, before we married, had founded a Toastmasters club with our friend Cindy, Rod Sloan, in Ealing. And he's a great friend of mine. He's a marketing expert.
Oh, he's lovely.
He's a really good friend of mine. We talk a lot. And my ex-wife founded that club with him, Trojan Speakers, in Ealing, in London. And she said, Fergus, if you're going to keep coming along with me, well, of course, we were engaged, and I was running around behind her like a little dog. Yes, darling, yes, darling. Okay, well, it's over now. We're divorced. But anyway, she said, if you're going to come to the club, you've got to join Toastmasters. Oh, my God. You know, she's a girl from Yorkshire who's done lots of business stuff, and why would I join Toastmasters? Because there's nothing in it for me, because I've been speaking for so long. But the great thing is, it gives you lots of discipline. It gives you lots of chances to speak, which is very important, including things like table topics, where you can speak for a minute to a minute and a half about something that's randomly thrown at you, and you go, oh my God. And it's very good. It's very focused on timing, which is incredibly important for a speaker, and focus on what the topic is. I'm not going to say who was there, okay? I was doing some speeches in Iran 5 years ago, right? And it was wonderful. I was there for 2 weeks doing speeches, and the Iranians are gorgeous people, the Persians, right? The speaker before me overran by 45 minutes. That meant my speech was cut to 38 minutes. I didn't like that.
So you had a bad speaker who couldn't do the timing.
He just was so focused on, oh, this is good, I'm loving this with the audience. No. And one of the things you get from Toastmasters, you learn to sense how many minutes have passed. You can use a wristwatch if you want, but you need to focus on how long you're up there, what you're going to say, what you're going to do. And our lady who's left the room at the moment, hopefully she's still out there, she was talking about lots of different stories, okay? And as you said, Cindy, and I say to you, Sevilla, okay, find a story that matters a lot to you, okay? and structure it, whether it's a 10-minute, a 15-minute, a half hour, a 45-minute, or an hour and a half. Structure it. Nice and simple. Make 3 main points, no more. And you can do that in 10 minutes. You can do it in 30 minutes. You can do it in 45 minutes. Don't bother with having more than 3 points, because people won't listen to more than 3 points. And I was telling a story earlier about when I fell asleep in the front row because somebody was talking at me, and he suddenly beat a drum, and I leapt up, and 150 people behind me saw that I woke up because I was falling asleep because he was speaking at me. And it was brilliant stuff, but he was at.
But I think, Sevilla, you've actually got a very emotive kind of topic, if I'm reading and understanding what you're writing.
Right. First, I do belong to Toastmasters. I have 2 more speeches until my CCM or whatever they call it. But my subject matter, my platform is to speak to women who are childless, not by choice. And I am unfortunately part of that club. So my issue is it's such a story with me that sometimes I struggle with what to say, how much to say, and I know it will depend on what type of forum I'm standing in front of, because if it's all women, then yes, maybe I can give a little bit more detail, but if it's men and women, or some people bring their children in, I don't want to say too much. So it's just the 3 points that Fergus is talking about. Is that whether it's a 10-minute speech or a 30-minute speech? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Personally, I would say the one thing with your particular presentation topic, because it's highly emotive, and you're talking to an audience of that's either in your position or still have children, etc. Because I know my husband, any story on television that involves children, hurt, anything that he actually starts crying. Now, he wasn't like that before we had children, but now we have children, he is an emotional wreck when it comes to anything like that. So when you've got such an emotive topic like that, the biggest thing in your arsenal is pauses.
Okay.
You can use pauses far more effectively than any other speaker. Because if I put a pause in marketing, or I put a pause in comedy, I can put a pause in for 1 or 2 seconds. I can actually put in a pause for only a few pauses. But in your particular topic, because it is emotional, there is a lot of things going on in people's minds. So slow it down and use those pauses, and pause longer. Your Toastmaster friends might hate it, but they are not your audience.
Right.
And if you do have a friendly person who's in that space, then yes, perhaps practice with them, but you'll see what I mean. Give it that little extra pause next time, and I'm sure you will actually see a difference in that audience, because suddenly you will connect with them, because their brain is going 5,000 miles to the dozen with you bringing up emotions that they are trying to deal with. And by giving that extra pause... Can I do a
demonstration, Cindy, of exactly what you're saying?
Go on then.
Can I give a demonstration? Okay. Sevilla?
Yes, sir.
Everybody else in the room, get your friends in, call them in. Come on, call them in, because they're getting free training here. Okay. Such a show off. Okay. Ready? Are we all ready? Yes, we are. Okay. I would like to tell you all today about a time in the long distant past when I discovered that I was actually a bit of a failure. What do I mean by a bit of a failure? Well, things weren't working perfectly for me. I wanted them to, but guess what? They didn't. Okay? That was it. That's the power of the pause. Now let me do the same thing again without the pausing, Sevilla, right? I'd like to talk to you today about the time when I was a failure. Now, I wanted things to work well for me, but they didn't.
Yeah. And your topic is so emotive. And I think what you're missing is when you're trying to say that you need to put more points in or how many points, you don't. You are a unique individual because you're tackling a topic that even if you're not speaking about it, there's a lot of people who don't want to deal with it.
It could be 3 aspects Sevilla, of the same topic. Okay? Just 3 aspects topic. Nobody will ever in the universe remember more than 3, which is why I always say 3. Whether it's a 10 minute, a 15, a 30 or 45, don't bother to go beyond 3 points. However, those 3 points can be related exactly to what you're saying. So listen to this, Sevilla. I would like to talk to you today about a few aspects of what it's like to be a woman who's childless and not by her own choice. I want to talk to you about how it feels for me, how it might feel for you, and actually how it feels for thousands of other women all round the world. Have I got you? Of course I have.
You've got me.
I know, and it's your topic, it's not mine.
Exactly. So very, very, very thing. Do you have a book or anything?
I have a 31-day devotional geared towards the topic, and I'm working on a 365-day devotional now.
Wow.
And I'm working on a book, a novel on the same subject.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Goodness. So even things like, so if you're getting like a 30-minute or a 45-minute slot, then just giving things out can also slow the time down. So you are actually having like your core 10 minutes or your core 15, which with getting people engaged and talking to each other, you can actually just spread it out a bit more. So you don't have to dilute too much just to try and fill up the time. And sometimes, even if you've been offered a 30 minutes, don't feel that you have to take it. It is actually better to do it shorter and punchier and more to your time, because you're the expert in your field and what you're talking about. So command it. Don't let an organizer dictate to you. So it's kind of rule number 1. One of the ones I've heard was bad speakers is when they only have 10 minutes speech and they try and pad it out for 45 minutes. I'd rather have the 10-minute speech.
Right.
But also, Cindy saying that reminds me, I've watched somebody do, it was a 3-day training, and it's somebody who works with Tony Robbins. And the first day, it was Cure for the Common Life, I think it was called, something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, this chap, the first day was utterly brilliant, that he gave us lots of content and shared it and got us all excited, because I was crewing, so I didn't have to pay because I was on crew. Okay, for the next 2 days, he asked lots of questions of the audience and answered them. And it was, in some ways, it was very good. Some bits were duff and boring, but other bits were really good. And what I think, when I've got an audience of 100, believe me, I ask them questions, because we've got 101 brains in the room. Mine's only one of them. And they might say something to me that's really good for everybody else in the room. That's why I love hecklers, because a heckler will say something that a lot of other people might be thinking. And like, for example, I'll give you an example here. So let's say I'm doing a speech and I'm 10 minutes into the speech and somebody says, "Are you any good at training people to speak in public?" So, well, that's a good question, actually. Let me tell you about one of my clients. And I can do a client story then. Oh, wonderful. I love that. I can't get up and say, "I'm wonderful," because listen to one of my client stories. But if somebody in the audience asks me, fantastic. Now, if we can convert that to your stuff, Sevilla, if somebody in your audience, if you can invite them to make comments about how they feel about being childless, not by their own choice, then if you've got a depth of knowledge of your topic, then you can say to them, well, there are ways that either you can deal with that or learn to handle that or learn to live with that. And that means everybody in the room gets to hear it. And any speech, I'm always saying this, and Cindy's probably bored of me saying it, it's got to be simple words and not much put across, because it's not like you're reading a novel where you can keep going back and read the previous chapter. It's got to be something really exciting for the person in the audience. And that's where it comes to good and bad speakers. A good speaker will share. Back to you, Cindy.
Well,
You breathe in.
Unfortunately, you can't say with her situation that it has to be exciting, but I would definitely say that having one point, one good takeaway where they feel that they've got something from it, I think that is what makes a good speaker, is being able to go away with something that has moved you, be it in a good positive format, either more information or you feeling compelled to do something, is the key.
Okay.
So.
Oh, call to action. Call to action.
Yeah. Okay. Call to action.
Okay.
I know it sounds very posh, doesn't it? Call to action. But in any speech, whether it's a 10 minutes, a 30 minute, 45 minute, an hour and a half, or a half day, or a 1 day training, I work a lot with Dan Kennedy, GKIC, Laser Kennedy, Insider Circle stuff. And one thing they keep saying, which is all about marketing and sales, right? One thing they keep saying there, which I knew already, but I don't mind them saying again, oh, thanks, Sean, I look forward to you coming back, is there's got to be a reason for the person listening to you. And the reason's got to be an action point that they make based on what you've said. Now, the action point could just be, don't go to the supermarket today, or don't buy another bottle of beer, or give up smoking, or eat better food. It doesn't matter what the action is. It's got to be an action point based on your speech. So if you think about
exactly what Sean's just said,
when you're putting it together, there's got to be an action point at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
And exactly what Sean's just said. If you don't tell people what to do, they probably won't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got it. You guys have been an awesome help. Thank you so much. I didn't want to take up so much of your time, but I appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Keep coming in. Tell all your friends about us.
I will.
Yeah. Thanks, Sevilla. Sevilla brought up some very good points, and so did Ian earlier, and so does everybody else who's been writing in the side, and Sean as well. Good speaking, as opposed to bad speaking, is sharing and connecting with the individuals in the audience. And here's one of the biggest...
As long as it's not done in a cheesy way, though.
No.
Oh.
No, Cindy, stop, Cindy, stop. No. We both know the cheesy speakers.
Oh,
we do.
Yes.
And we're not going to name any of them, but we do know... Okay, no, because we do that on the phone.
We'll do it later. Do it off.
Yeah, we'll do it later. Yeah. Do you remember him? Oh, do you remember her? Oh, my God.
But no. Okay. Coming back, cheesy for me is where they're regurgitating somebody else's stuff.
Oh, no.
Trying to claim it's their own. Or it's a story that's done in a very bad way where even they miss their own point, and then they're trying to put humour into it, and they're not good on their timing at all. No. I'm one of those. I am absolutely lousy at telling jokes. It doesn't stop me, but at least I know I'm bad at it, so I won't do it. But
yeah. Okay.
You're busy reading, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm reading Sean. Sean's got... Oh, Sean, come in, and Fab, come in. Fab is great. Well, you know Fab anyway.
Done. Absolutely authentically. Here comes Fab.
Okay. Go on, Cindy, tell us a joke. No, she's a woman. Women
He's got a Star Trek uniform on.
Oh, no, it's Captain Fab. Star Trek Fab.
Good evening.
At least
Good evening.
I got the decency to just wear a New Orleans T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm Captain Picard this evening.
Hey, you've gone up. I hats off to you, honestly.
I want one of those, actually. That's why I'm jealous.
It's the onesie, though. That's what he's not telling you.
It's actually a pyjama.
Oh, you're not wearing Star Trek pajamas. That's pathetic.
I've got 4 kids, 3 boys, and they're all into science fiction. So you've got to play the game.
So you've stolen their pajamas. You've stolen your son's pajamas. This is getting worse. I'm phoning the police.
Beam me up.
He's wearing his children's pajamas.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I just wish Sean, are you sure you can't join in just for like 2 seconds, please? Oh no, please, just for a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, and I promise I will kick you out after 1 minute, 2 minutes, just to come in. Because there's been such lovely comments down the side here. And no, I won't tell a joke because I don't want to kill the room.
Yeah.
I was just pulling your leg there.
There is an art to joke telling.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that good at jokes either. Depends.
No, but it's amazing how many.
I am very, very good at telling jokes, I have to say.
No, I just find I am the joke. But I have been told there's so many speakers out there that have been told that they need to do a joke. Yeah, I've been along to some of these organisations and I sit and listen where the speakers, where those that are training and trying to craft their presentation give a mini kind of demonstration. And it's amazing how many times somebody will stop and they say, oh, you didn't put humour in there. You need to put humour in. And I've had to go up to them afterwards and say, well, actually, if you're presenting that topic to your board, you're going to get thrown out if you put humour in. You did it quite right, you know.
It has to. I think it has to come natural. I mean, there's one comedian from South Africa you probably know called Trevor Noah.
Do you know, funny enough, no, I haven't.
Okay, well, you got to look him up on YouTube. He's so funny. He's hilarious, this guy. But Trevor Noah.
Noah.
And he just tells these stories because he's half black and half white. So he's got all these stories about him growing up.
Which half is which?
Well, again, he goes on about that as well. But he's clean language. So it's none of this swearing or anything, which is I like. And he's just so hilarious. And he talks all over the world. He goes to the US. He does shows there and that. And there's a lot of his stuff on YouTube. But he's really, really funny. And you can tell that he turns stories about his life and he talks about it in a funny way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
And I don't think he's much scripted. I think it seems like it's just coming out.
Well, I think that's a good thing is when you can actually do speaking to the point that you don't need to have it scripted.
Yeah.
And I think one of the worst speakers I ever saw is somebody who made lots of money. Grew a company, sold it off for lots and lots of millions, and was actually giving a presentation about how he did this and his life story. Mm-hmm. And he read it from 4 pages.
Ooh.
I'm thinking, okay, you might be new at this. So I saw him about 3 months later.
Yeah.
And he was still reading the same 4 pages.
Ooh.
And it's all about his own life story.
Which he could talk and tell people from the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, that has to be the worst speaker I have seen, because I've never seen anyone have to read a script of their own life before.
Do you know what's worse? Do you know what's worse, Cindy? Okay. I wasn't there this particular time, Professional Speaking Association annual convention, because I damaged my back and I couldn't move, so I couldn't go. But I heard about one of the speakers there, which was an American speaker, no idea what her name was, right? And she got halfway through her speech, her 45-minute speech, she went, no, just a minute, no, hang on, I've missed a bit out. And she then repeated a previous bit to run into the bit that she'd left out. So what she'd done, she memorized a 45-minute speech from start to finish. And she stood there and delivered it. Now, the problem with that is, it's a bit like talking to somebody behind double glazing, watching an auto cue. I can do a full day training presentation with 1 sheet of A4 with notes of the things I want to talk about. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Or you have a PowerPoint which triggers your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, as well. But like, for example, there's a thing when I was working with my ex-wife, and we were going to do a training session in a school, okay, for a day for 15-year-olds. And she was writing up this incredibly long speech because she'd worked for IBM, right? So she was trying to write up the full day. And one of the things was an exercise, which, please listen, everybody, it's quite a good exercise, which she got from I don't know where, which was you ask everybody in the room without looking, and everybody in the room, do it now, do this exercise now, go on. Without looking at your wristwatch, okay, never mind what time it says, what does the front of it look like, and what is the name on the watch, on your wristwatch? Now, it's a good thing to get people to be more attentive to details in their own lives. That's all it is. It's just a quick little exercise. Fine. Okay, they were 15-year-olds. It would have worked. But I said, you've written the whole thing out. Don't.
Yeah.
Just write the 2 words, watch, exercise.
Exactly.
Nothing else. Yeah. Right. So we're with the kids in the school, and I've made her do this to the whole day of training. And she got to that bit, and she suddenly realised only a third of them had wristwatches. At which point, she dumped it and moved on to the next bit. Now, if she'd memorised a 10-minute segment about your wristwatch, she'd have been in serious trouble.
Absolutely. I think, for me, some of the speakers I've worked with, they like mind maps.
Yes, I use that.
And the PowerPoint behind it, they don't really use a PowerPoint, what they do with a mind map, which is mind map that's on the podium, is they'll just use that and float round that. So they're kind of semi-constructing as they're talking and gauging the audience response at the same time. So if they're going down a particular path and they're just not feeling it, they'll dump that whole part of that structure and just move on to the next one. But also it means that because it's not absolutely memorized from A to B to Z, if they do miss out a point, nobody's actually any the wiser anyway. And I think that, again, comes back down to knowing the amount of your stuff and feeling the room at the same time.
Yeah, I think getting to know the audience before you go is key.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, find out who the organizer is, talk to them, ask questions, send out a form, do some research on the internet. Because, I mean, you see, especially some of these American guys that have made a lot of money, they go in and they say, I made $1 billion. And the guy in the room is struggling financially. He's probably made maybe $3,000 a month, and he's thinking, how can I make 3.5 a month? And this guy's talking about billions. You've got to understand your audience. Where are they now? And how can I give them, as you said, call to action, something that they can go home that evening and the next day execute something and start getting results, which means take them to up the next notch, not up 10 floors, flights of stairs in one go, because that's not reality. I mean, what can someone do to take their life from here to here, not from here to all the way up here, because that's not going to happen. It will eventually, but it just...
Well, funny enough, you said you were talking about knowing your audience. You heard of what's his name? Corbyn did recently.
Oh yeah, go.
Yeah, Labour guy,
yeah. He was actually giving a speech at a Jewish
Israel support group, wasn't it?
That's it. Labour Party donor. Sorry, he was heckled by somebody in the audience, and the heckler was actually thrown out.
Okay.
And the reason the heckler was thrown out is because he basically was saying that the whole event was the Labour Friends of Israel. And Corbyn had managed to do an 8-minute speech without actually referencing Israel, Jewish, or anything to do with that whole area at all.
No, that's wrong.
So the heckler had said, well, why won't you mention that?
The heckler was right.
Well,
Jewish people are very proud of their heritage and their history.
Yeah,
and they're very clever people.
Yeah.
So you should address that in the first few minutes.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I've trained people from everywhere in the world, Arabs, Indians, Jews, Persians, whatever. If you're doing a speech for an Israel support group, I think you might need to mention Israel and support, really. Maybe.
Well, if you're going to the event, then obviously do your research and make it relevant to your audience.
Okay, I want to tell you a little story here. Okay. You like my little stories, don't you, anyway? By the way, everybody listening to here, and including Fab and also Cindy, don't ever say to an audience, I want to tell you a story.
Yeah.
The only person who got away with that was an English stage performer called Max Bygraves. I want to tell you a story. But most people adults hate being told that they're going to be told a story.
Yeah, you do that for kids.
Children.
Yeah,
exactly. But adults love to hear stories. Yeah. So you say, I want to tell you about something that happened to me once. Okay. I went into the away day. I was very, very well paid, I have to say, for a very large rail company to do a 2-hour presentation. And it was like megabucks, okay? But they were having a 2-day away day. The management team, the top management team, the managing director and all the very top heads, okay? Notice what I'm doing when I'm telling the story. I'm building the story. Okay, so I came into the room at 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock on their first day together. And they were sitting there, cross-legged, thinking, oh, what's he going to do, this voice coach person? Now, luckily, I'd already worked with a lot of better of that rail company, and I knew how they could sometimes get it wrong by paying for electricity at a higher price than they could have paid for it the day before because they delayed. Okay, so right at the beginning of my presentation to the managing director and her team, okay, that probably gives it away a bit, never mind. It's the biggest rail company in this country, never mind. I said, okay, if, excuse the coughing, I've been ill, okay, I've been smoking, okay. If you want to, this is me talking to the managing director and her team, I said, imagine that you need to tell the stakeholders and shareholders that you bought electricity today for a penny more per unit than you could have bought it yesterday. Now, you are a company that uses a lot of electricity. And so a penny over one day is a lot of money to the stakeholders. Now, you can deliver it well to them, or if you deliver it badly to them, if you don't mind me saying so, it'll be a sort of train crash for you. I use the expression train crash to the management team of a train company. They jumped up in their seats. I had them then.
Yeah.
I totally had them. Because it was about what they do for a living, and the biggest thing that can go wrong with a rail company is for a train to crash.
Yeah.
And the second biggest is paying too much for electricity. So I linked the two together and I got them.
Yeah.
And I made my whole presentation about speech and speaking and presentation and the psychology of communications related to their business because I knew who they were. You've got to do that with an audience. It doesn't matter if it's 18 or 20 people or 10,000 people. You've got to relate it to them. In Iran, I had 1,000 each day, and believe me, I related it to Iran. And by the way, did you know, because I researched it before I went there, that 75% of people in Iran are younger than 35.
Yeah.
Why? Because the older ones were killed in the Iran-Iraq war.
Oh, wow. No, you just don't even think that, do you?
It's really serious, yeah.
Yeah, and they're also, a lot of them are very pro-Western world.
Oh, they are. I love the Iranians. They're gorgeous people.
People think from the outside that they're all living in tents and stuff like that, but no,
No.
they just can't
They can't
wait for the sanctions to be lifted, and then they're going to become the next New York. Or whatever.
Well, the thing is that Iranians are very, very clever.
Yes.
A lot of the top physicists in the world are Iranian.
Yeah.
And if I could just drop this in, which I've done in lots of my speeches as well, we look upon Iran as being a despotic, vicious state. And yes, it is in lots of ways. And they kill people in horrible ways and they stone people to death. And there's a lot of horrible stuff goes on. But the funny thing is, unlike other despotic countries, because the leaders there do it based on religion, they don't buy big palaces for themselves. They spend the money on the people. You've got double-decker underground trains.
Yeah.
You've got cities being built all over the place because the Ayatollahs are not buying stuff for themselves. They're buying it for the people. Whatever their religious stuff is. This is another thing about storytelling, actually, in speeches. Don't make anybody out to be a black and white villain or a whiter than white hero, because it isn't true. Everybody's got different aspects to ourselves. And if you try to say that you are wonderful when you're on stage, then you're going to lose the audience. If you try to say that they are wonderful, then you'll lose the audience. You've got to be truthful. We're all good and bad. We've all got a mixture of things in us.
Yeah.
And you've got to relate to, I suppose, the human condition. Sounds a bit pompous, doesn't it? But we are humans. That's it.
Yeah, well, going back to the Iranians, I mean, in the Middle East, the top people for doing business, so the Jews, the people from Lebanon, Lebanese, and the Iranians.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you know what the top value is in Iran?
What would it be?
Hospitality to strangers.
Well, isn't their code is sort of like be honourable to anybody because you don't know who they are? And I absolutely do like that, because I treat everybody with respect to begin with. I give them respect until they treat me and teach me that I shouldn't respect them.
Yeah.
That's wrong. But I
so.
found that, and it's been interesting in my job role, I was working with one of the bureaus, and it was interesting because some of the speakers would come in and they'd go around and they'd wine and dine all the salespeople. They would really lavish their attention on the MD. And because I was just at that particular point, I was introduced as Cindy. It was like, this is Britta, who is so-and-so's PA. This is Dave, the salesperson. This is Hazel, the accounts person. This is Cindy. And this is Dagmar, who runs the global operations. And I was sort of like, I had my own space. What I then found is those speakers who disrespected me would come out the woodwork straight away because they assumed I was a nobody. And in actual fact, what I was doing is I was in command of all the website. And I was in command of all the SEO. And I was in command of all the database because I was doing all the IT. And I was in command of all the training of all the salespeople that came in as well. So those people who were not very nice to me didn't get to go onto the website because there was always a problem. I always managed to find that their email address would kind of slightly go array and this, that, and the other. And I then found out that as I was working on the database, that I wasn't the only person that when speakers were being disrespectful. So, for example, one speaker, a very big television personality here at the time, was put their invoice in, but forgotten to add something in. So sent a second invoice for 50p, and then harassed the accounts team to pay them 50p. So after that, not only did the accounts team actually get 50 pence out of their pocket, sellotape it to a postcard and post it to them, and said, if you're that hard up, here it is, this is out of my own pocket, because it actually cost me more in time, money, and effort to go through the company for your mistake. But B, she then put notes all over the system to every single salesperson: do not sell this person because I will not deal with them and I will not transact any fees for them, collect their fee from the organizer or anything else. So it's that whole thing of just showing people respect is so crucial, I think, especially in our industry.
If we can get back to our title, which is Good and Bad Speakers, okay?
It's bad behaviour as well. Speakers behaving badly.
Yeah, actually, that's a good title, isn't it? Speakers behaving badly.
Well, yeah. Louisa, can I just say, Louisa was, I invited Louisa to come and join us, but I don't know if she's going to come and join the seat, but you're more than welcome to come and join. There she is. Yeah, sorry, you were saying good and bad speakers. Speakers behaving badly.
Yeah, I love that. Probably change the name. Actually, change the title. It's good. Speakers behaving badly.
Shall we change it to that?
Yeah, change it to that.
This is where my typing skills go downhill.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, Louisa.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And better because you got in here. That's great.
I love this conversation. This is a very interesting conversation for me because I'm starting to speak now, and I'm just really learning a lot by what you guys are sharing. And I love blabs like this because it's going to help me to, bring my message and do it in a right way, in an authentic way. I want to, my message is huge for me. And because I coach single moms, so I always want to make sure that my message is received by my audience because that's why I do what I do.
Okay, so how long have you been speaking and what's it for and how can we help?
I've been speaking for about a year, and I speak to young women in colleges about, single moms, struggling in being a mom and dealing with everything and relationships with themselves in order for them to attract a good relationship my goal is for the single moms to not be single moms anymore and to attract a good person in their lives so they can raise their children together in a family unit. So that's what I speak about.
Okay. And what are you trying to do with the topic?
I'm trying to reach as many single moms to, all over, because I want to speak everywhere because the problem is huge. There's, single moms everywhere. And it's like now it's like an epidemic of, children being raised in a one-parent household. Mm-hmm. And the struggle is real for them. And a lot of times people don't understand that, it's not that we all don't say, well, I'm gonna be a single mom one day. I think that the stigma on single moms is really, really horrible, because everybody thinks that, she's a single mom, so she deserves blah, 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 blah. And I live in New York City, so I'm talking from what I know. And just because you're a single mom, it's not a choice. Single moms get divorced. Single moms lose their husbands. There's a lot of single moms in the world.
Reasons.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
And they really do need support, because in order for our children, and I say our children because it's all about the children for me, in order for the children to win, their moms have to be empowered, and they need help. And people need to just really reach out to them and treat them kind and offer support, instead of looking down at them and making them feel worse than what they're feeling most of the time.
No, I hear you. So what do you do with your speech? Do you actually offer help, support, training, or action points of where to go?
Yes, I have a coaching program. That I created, and I talk about, finance, helping them with their finances, helping them with childcare, helping them with self-worth, and to, get them to a point where they can be really, really healthy enough to raise their children, because their circumstance. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them are just really stuck in the space of just overwhelmedness, because they are doing it alone. So Absolutely. What I do, I created a program where I can help them, schedule. They have to live their lives out of a schedule, period.
So you're giving them a signpost. You're actually signposting their life, really, and saying, right, okay, we're going to de-junk, de-cloud, de-overload you. This is a step-by-step program. Yes. And once you get to the end here, theoretically, you should now be in a better place.
Yeah. And because a lot of them really they never had anybody, bringing this up to them. They don't understand. They become a single mom, and they forget about their passions and their goals, because in their minds, I'm a single mom. There's nothing else for me to do, because I have no time to do nothing else, because I'm exhausted. But I say no. There is time, and you should follow your passions, because you know what? Your children are looking up to you. So let's start somewhere. Let's start small, and let's just support and help. So.
Yeah, plus with the internet today, it's a lot easier to set up a business than it was 10, 15 years ago. I interviewed a guy today, you probably heard of, he's called Dave Checketts. He was the CEO of Madison Square Garden. He owned the Real Salt Lake Football Club for a while, and a number of other things. And he was talking to me about two of his sons have set up a clothing company that make clothes. It's a cross between leisure and sports clothes. And he was saying that they don't sell in stores. It's all done on the internet. And he said that's the beauty of it today. You can set up a business and then online sell your gear and reach out to the world.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to store anything in your house. You can store it. Amazon can do it for you. Amazon Fulfillment by Amazon. They can store everything for you. So you can have stuff shipped from the factory to Amazon, and they'll take care of everything. And then they'll send you a check every month.
Amazing.
Okay. So where are you going with your topic, and how can we help you? Is there anything that we can do to help point you or elevate you, or?
Yeah, I'm really looking to, like I said, I talk to a lot of women in colleges, because there's a lot of young women that already have kids and they're in college.
Right.
So, that's where I do a lot of my speaking, and I do a lot of free, just like volunteering speaking in my community, and just trying to reach as many. I'm trying to, to create a space where I can go and talk to organizations here in New York.
So you're actually doing the speaking to actually sell your program?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Right. So you're starting with the end in mind. It's a marketing tool for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask and say, is your coaching program affordable by the market that you're talking to?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, it has to
be. Exactly. That's the point number one. Number two, have you thought of being able to syndicate your signposting? Because if it's a coaching program, which is a step-by-step analysis, step-by-step, here to go, this, that, and the other, can you train other people up to actually repeat and redo your stuff?
Yeah, license it, you mean?
License it.
I never thought about that. Yeah, I really know that. Can I write that down? I like that.
Well, you see, because your topic, you're dealing with a very, very big audience, which is very, very spread. And if you've already worked out that your pricing bracket is one that they can afford, then you've either got to work your little butt off and get everywhere,
which you can't,
or you've got to get soldiers and champions working for you.
Yeah, and leverage. Yeah,
absolutely. So that means that you can then go up, because the beauty is that because you're the head and the top of it, you can then go to the next level audience, the grandparents, the parents that are on the side, the guys who don't know how to help their children that have now suddenly become single parents. So you're the next level up.
Another thing you can do, Louisa, is create like a video course. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy called Bob Proctor.
Yes.
He's got a thing that is called 6 Minutes to Success, and it's just all these pre-recorded videos, and you sign up and you pay, I think, $30 a month or something, and then every day there's a video for 6 minutes that you watch, and he's got assignments that you need to do, and it just builds gradually. And there's a lot of different speakers and programs out there that do this kind of thing. So if you were to have on one side coaches that are certified by you, and they pay you like a license fee, and then on the other side you've got another course which is done on video, which once you've done it and you've loaded it on the internet, you're paid every day. And then that way you'll be able to reach out more people, because this is not only a problem in the US. We have the same problem in the UK, the same problem in Italy, the same problem in Japan. This is a worldwide phenomenon. And so you want to be able to reach out to the world, not just to the ladies in New York.
Right.
And it's always better if you've got an army of champions underneath you as well. Then that's how you can escalate and actually, upscale, I think is the popular phrase.
Also a book, Louisa. Have you written a book about it?
2 books. I've read 2 books about it already. 2 books.
You've written 2 books. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. 2 books. I got my first book is Love Starts With You, because again, I always have to work on the moms, because that's where I get them to be. Oh, here's my books. Love Starts With You.
Yeah.
And Diversity.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good.
and it's because what I realized, you see, I come from a background of single parents. My mom was a single parent of 12.
Oh.
I was a single parent. My daughter now is a single parent of 2.
Okay.
Right.
So that's my inspiration. Yeah, that's my inspiration. So I'm the grandmother that you talked about.
Absolutely. And there are people in your situation who've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, but they can't necessarily know how to relate that information. Now, it's good that you've done 2 books, because there are so many people out there who've written 1 book, but their topic isn't actually stretchy enough to do 2 books.
Right.
But you're in such an emotive situation, the same with like Sevilla. You can actually start talking around the subject and talking to the next level up. Then you've got the aunts and the uncles, you've got the support group. How do they get involved without treading on toes and stuff? So you can actually go a lot further with this and a lot more in depth. And it's just removing yourself out to that one level so you can actually think that way.
Yes.
You're halfway there already, because you've already put your program together and you're already thinking about the actual financial side. So that's always good.
Yes.
Just taking it to that next level.
Thank you. I really appreciate all this information. It really is like, wow, I'm like happy. I'm glad something made me jump into this blab. I was like, oh, I want to jump into this blab, because speaking is something that I do. And I just always want to get better and better. As long as I keep it real with who I am and my message, then I'm always going to be better. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And no, I wish you well with it. I wish you well. If there's anything another tips or anything, or you just want to have a sounding board, or am I heading in the right direction, do feel free to come and knock again and find me and have a shout.
I'm following all of you amazing people, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay?
Thank you, Lisa.
No problem.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Now, Jessa.
Come in, Jessa. Louisa, bless you, is leaving, and you can come in.
And thank you very much for joining us, Louisa. That's lovely. And Jessa, would you like to come in? Because she's had a very, very interesting comment, which is she's speaking at an event soon and hope to pick up some tips of what to do and not do. So,
well, brilliant. Can't wait. Come in, Jessa. Because we've seen lots of bad ones. Okay. You've got to put the makeup on first.
While she's doing that, Fab, we asked the question.
What's THYSM mean?
Thank you so much.
Okay, got it.
Senior strategist. Oh my God. Okay, I need to. When you're in, Jessa, you can tell me what that Oh, Jess, sorry.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
That title was. Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Okay,
Perfect.
what was that huge title of you? Senior strategist, blah, 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 blah. Couldn't read it in time.
I think I had like senior strategist, strategizing, strategic strategy at Social Flow.
Okay.
It was kind of a cheeky bio with
what
it.
does it mean in English?
Yeah, so I run paid media for our clients on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, the whole gambit.
Okay.
And I'm speaking in a couple weeks at a social media breakfast on Pinterest. And
Okay.
a lot of times I do like workshops and clients, and it's, maybe 20 to 30 people, and this one sold out in a day, and it's like 180 people.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. I love
I was like,
those.
It's like
Okay.
a lot of people.
Do you know why you need to love it, Jess? Right.
Oh, sorry,
I
what?
think,
Oh,
do you know why you need to love that audience of 180?
yes.
No, you don't yet.
Probably
but
not.
You will in a moment. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm just a little
I
like,
tease. Okay, I tease. Okay. Prince Charles, you've heard of him, I think.
yes.
Will maybe be king after his mother croaks, or he'll pass it on to his son straight away. Anyway, Prince Charles is very shy. Okay.
Oh.
He doesn't mind speaking to really large audiences like 180, 200, 300, 400, 500. He hates small audiences of 20 or 30. The reason he hates the small audiences is because it's much easier for them to ask him questions. Where when it's 200 or 300, 400, they can't ask him questions. He can't be caught on the hop. So he loves the big audiences and he hates the small ones, even though he's very shy.
Yeah.
Because he feels safer with the large audiences.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of people that are like that as well, because you can actually hide on stage with a larger audience, because you just talk away. And when you're talking away, they're not actually engaging. You don't have to actually engage with the audience. I know it sounds strange, but by not engaging with the audience, it means you don't have to sit and take questions from them there and then, and they can't interrupt you as easy. And people like Fergus pulling faces like that are a bit more blurred at the back of the auditorium, especially if you've got one that's got all lights on you and it's slightly de-lit. So you actually can't even see the faces to engage. You just have to look around aimlessly and pretend that you can actually see people. And that's when you kind of do room spot. So it's always good to go into the room before the audience are in there.
Yes.
And get a room spot places in the audience, so people then think you're looking at them, but you're not. You're just sort of like looking around the room and visualizing the room that you saw before everyone was in there, because if it's one that's got all the cameras and lights in your face, you can't see them anyway.
Okay. I've definitely got to come in here because this is what I do. Okay. Right, Jess, you wanted to be able to do really well with a larger audience, okay?
Yes.
And Cindy's just brought it up very well about how you spot the room. Okay, I'm ex-Royal Shakespeare Company, which probably means nothing to you because you're in the Americas, you're in one of the colonies, and you've never heard of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
I have, though.
Oh, have you? Good.
I don't know anything more than...
I love the colony bit. I love the colony.
Well, yeah, you're in a colony. No, I had a girlfriend in Pasadena about 15 years ago. I love America, by the way. I've been there lots of times.
Yeah.
She said, "We don't know what Royal Shakespeare Company is. Is it like Broadway?" Yeah, sort of a bit. And then she saw Shakespeare in Love with my very distant cousin, family friend, Dame Judi Dench, who got an Oscar for her 8 minutes on stage, on the screen. She said, "Oh my God, yeah, Dame Judi Dench. Is she the old woman in Shakespeare in Love?" Yeah, okay, she is the old woman in Shakespeare in Love. She's actually a top classical actress. And she's done, "Well, I don't know, Fergus. Don't have a go at me. I don't know English actors and actresses." Okay, fine. So I do know there's a cultural gap here. Okay, I do understand that. Now, having said that, when you want to work with a larger audiences, here's what to do. Cindy was talking brilliantly about spotting the room. And yes, definitely. Whatever speech you're doing, whenever you're doing a presentation, arrive half an hour to an hour before your time, at least, if possible. I always do. I also take a lot of spare microphones and cameras and
Talk to the AV guys.
loudspeakers. Oh yeah, make love to the AV guys is what I say. Yeah, get your microphone on and say, please, can you ring me out? Ring me out. They'll think, oh, she knows what she's doing. Ring out my microphone. It means what they do while they're listening to you talking on the microphone, you go, hello, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And what they do, they get the sound right for you on your microphone. They make it sound good for you. As opposed to sounding, they just stick the microphone on you just before you get on stage. They make sure you don't have feedback. Okay. And that's all they do.
And if they hate you, they make you so you can actually hear yourself speak.
Or give you a really squeaky voice. They just turn the top up and turn the bottom down. And whatever you do, there's no bass. It just sounds... Or they make you really down here like this. So if you make love to the sound man, which I've often said, then they will make you sound good. Now, I don't have to worry, because I always take a microphone of my own along. And I make sure my microphone is plugged into their system very, very well. And I also teach people how to do this with a microphone, which works very well with an audience, because it gives you what's called bass lift. And if you've got a headset... Okay, right, let's move away from that. Jess,
Come on, not too techy. She just needs to do some notes.
Yeah. Okay. Following on from what Cindy said, what you've got to do is imagine your speech. This came partly from Muhammad Ali, who was a genius. And somebody said to him, do you have butterflies when you got to do a boxing match? He said, yeah, I do, but I make them fly in formation. Okay, which I thought was brilliant. Now, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the top NLP people told me years ago, an exercise which you can do, which is utterly brilliant. I think it was Steve Andreas, actually. I can't remember, but it was utterly brilliant. Okay, so imagine you've got the nervous tension in your stomach, which is brilliant. It's really good to have that, right? So that nervous tension keeps you nice and tight and tense. And yeah, good, you're going to be very bright. Somebody said they have butterflies in their stomachs. I said, well, I have the occasional caterpillar, really. But then I have been doing it for a long time. Anyway, what you do, you imagine the butterflies in your stomach flying round and round in a circle in formation. Dum, 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 dum. And as you start to speak, they come up your throat and come out of your mouth. And your butterflies go all over the room in front of you, okay? And they're dropping your ideas into the audience, which are genius ideas, okay? And you imagine them flying in a lazy figure eight formation over the audience, okay? Lazy figure eight. So while you're talking, watch your butterflies doing this lazy figure eight. And your eyes will take in everybody in the room, and every single one of them will think you're talking directly to them. Okay? Nice, simple exercise. Yeah. And you'll feel really good because you're dropping, your butterflies are dropping, and they're in delta formation. Now, okay, if your butterflies are flying in delta formation like fighters, what does that make you? It makes you the biggest SS Nimitz in the world. You are the big aircraft carrier, and your planes are going out and dropping love bombs, intelligence bombs, knowledge bombs into your audience. I've taught that to hundreds of clients, and they all go, oh my God, Fergus, that works so well. Because when I was an actor, okay, we had stalls, dress circle, upper circle, gods, and boxes, right? As in each side you had boxes. Yeah. And so when we were rehearsing, when we finally got to the theatre, because we've been rehearsing for 2 or 3 weeks in rehearsal rooms, so we're now on stage, and the director says, Fergus, you left out the stalls. Fergus, you performed to the gods so much that everybody in the stalls was looking up your nostrils. Fergus, you forgot the boxes. Fergus, you didn't do the dress circle. I had to learn the hard way. But if you use that lazy figure eight on its side, you can't get it wrong. Yeah, you always get everybody.
I'm going to.
Because they'll think, Jess is gorgeous, and also you feel really good about yourself. And one of the most important things when you're doing a presentation to a new audience is to, one, know your own stuff. But there's an expression used in the psychology of coaching for athletes, which is choking, okay? In acting, it's called freezing, or drying up, or drying, which I've done. Believe me, I did it once. It was horrible. Oh my God, it was horrible. Anyway, choking in sports means you're getting up there and you're really psyched up to do something, and the slightest thing goes wrong and you think, oh my God, and everything stops.
Yeah.
It just stops dead. And that makes you worse. It happened to me once on stage, and believe me, it was really, really bad. I had Prince Charles up there and Prince Philip down there, and I forgot my lines. And I was looking around the whole theatre. I looked across the prompt box, which is the other side of the stage. The prompt woman was reading a magazine. Didn't help me at all.
Oh,
and I had to make up a line for myself, and there was only 3 of us actors on the stage, and the other 2 ran off to do whatever they had to do next. I then had to lay a 15-foot-long lance down on the stage, walk to the front of the stage, and give a presentation to the entire audience of about 900 people, including the royals, and in various different bits of the 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs I was doing meant smoke was blown onto the stage, and cannons went off, and sound effects went off, and people came on stage, and I walked to the front of the stage. Now, this is another one for you, Jess, as well. It's really important. Okay. Because I'd been doing this play for 3 or 4 months at the time, and the words had just disappeared from me, I walked to the front of the stage. I put the spear down in the normal way because I knew the movements. I walked to the front of the stage. I stood on my spot. I looked ahead of me, and the words came back. And
it was anchored, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's muscle memory, basically.
Yeah,
it was anchored into my body.
Yeah.
What words came? Now, there was nothing in my conscious mind at all. I walked to the front of the stage. I thought, I do not know what's going to happen, but it's really, really important that it does. Obviously, I've got 60 actors waiting, and all the sound effects people and the lighting people. It didn't matter. Once I hit that spot, because I'd rehearsed it so much and I'd performed it so much, my body kicked in and took over, and it worked brilliantly. Mm-hmm. And you can do that. If you practice your presentation you're going to do at home, okay, one of the things to do to practice it, you think about that exercise with the butterflies, which is a very powerful mind changer, okay? But you also listen to some music that you really love, that really gets you motivated and feeling really good about yourself and what you can deliver and what you can give. And you listen to that music and you move to that music, okay? Dance to the music, move to the music, get the music into your body. And then, once you're feeling really good, okay, let the music run if you want, it doesn't matter. But once you've really got into it, hi Mikey 1104, once you're really in it, go for the speech and do it in the mirror at home, okay?
Okay.
And do it 2 or 3 times.
Absolutely.
Because then, when you're on stage, the music will kick in, your body movements from the dancing will kick in. You won't dance on stage, but by God, you'll feel good. And you'll blow them away. That's my tips.
Yeah, it's all about relaxing. Fab, what do you do when you're speaking with an audience of size?
Well, I mean, I'm okay with both sizes, whether it's a large audience or a small audience. I don't have a problem with the small ones interacting. That's not a problem for me. And I do what I didn't realize I was doing it, but I do tend to look at the audience and I probably naturally do what Fergus was saying. People come up to me at the end always saying that it was a good presentation. So obviously I must be doing something right. I know I've still got a lot of margins of improvement, and so that's why I like to listen to you guys and take notes. And
we come out with a few gems.
Yeah.
The things I would say is definitely making sure that your content is right for the audience. Yeah. Think of the end in mind. Mm-hmm. So why are you there? Why are they there? And make sure that they're going away with something that they actually feel that I'm glad I listened to you, not, oh God, that was a waste of time.
Yeah, the call to action. Call to action is key.
Call to action, whatever that call of action is, whether to call you, take up, do something at home, whatever it is. Now, I don't know if your event organizer said this is a bit of a sales spot, so sell yourself and sell your products. Don't do it. Yeah. If you're any good and you're in the right place and you've got the right audience, by being yourself, being passionate about your topic and giving you a call of action of what they must go away and do, and even you giving away information, giving stuff away, if it's any good and resonates with them, they'll line up to come and join you.
Yeah, that's what I do with everything.
Also, use stories. I always use a story. Every time I give a talk, I research, well, obviously, first of all, know your audience, then come up with a story or research, find a story that's going to work for that particular message. And then once you've said the story, go on, explain the points, and then come up with a list of like 1, 2, 3 action points at the end that tie into the story that you tell at the beginning. And that brings it back full circle.
Okay. Now, Sevilla has actually said about questions and interactions may help with nerves. I know another speaker, and it's one tip that I picked up from her that I'm going to use, which is she doesn't actually have questions and answers. She has observations and comments at the end of her presentation. Oh. She said because questions and answers for her, now she's in a space where it is an emotional journey, pretty much like where Sevilla is. So with her doing questions and answers, people don't like being put on the spot. But by changing it to if anyone has any comments and observations.
I like that. I like that very much.
She's finding that people are actually coming in, even if it's just a 2-penneth word, saying, I'm so glad I come here because I've learned, where they actually haven't got a question, they just want to chip in.
Yeah.
And that has actually had far more impact with her after kind of, and the suntan effect that we were talking about earlier, than actually just finishing stuff on her questions and answers.
Oh, cool.
Here's another statement here for Jess and for everybody else listening, and I hope you're all calling your friends in because it's really good. So if they're not coming in, they're missing stuff, right? Okay. You get to the end of your presentation, okay, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. And then, now you'll have seen this, Jess, and I know Fab's seen it, I know Cindy seen it. Okay, so everybody, any questions?
Yeah.
I've done that. I've actually done that myself.
Have you? Okay, guess what goes wrong? I'll tell you what goes wrong, because I'm in charge, Fab. Okay, what happens is...
No, you're not, I am.
Oh, yeah, you are. But you made me Coco. Okay. Coco.
Anyway, we digress.
Right, okay. So what happens is, for an audience, any audience, and I've been in the audience, believe me, I've been in the audience, when somebody suddenly says any questions, I think, there was something, nobody else is asking any questions, so everybody else probably understood it, so I'll keep my mouth shut. I won't say anything because I'll make a fool of myself, because obviously everybody else understood everything. And finally, after 5 to 10 seconds, one very brave soul says, excuse me, but in that first 3 minutes when you were talking about the man with the wooden leg, I didn't understand the relevance. And then the speaker says, well, the relevance of the wooden leg was he was standing on the person's foot and the person thought there was something wrong with the man in front who was being rude. He didn't realize the man couldn't feel anything with his leg. And then suddenly everybody else comes rushing in with their questions. Now, the reason for that is everybody's thinking, oh, I don't want to ask a question. I'll look silly. So how you introduce the Q&A session, this is really important for everybody in the room. That's why I said that. You say, okay, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you for your questions about the session we've just been doing. I'd like you to think about which aspects of today's presentation that really made total sense to you and which bits that you got the slightest question about. If you just think about that for a minute or two, and then you can call out to me what your question is. I can see someone at the back there. Have you got a question related to what we've just been doing? And somebody's going to, oh yeah, I have, because then they flow in. Because you've given them permission, and you've got to give them time. The Q&A, don't smack it on the head. You give them time to come in, yeah? Because then it gives them time to think for a minute. And you waffle. You literally waffle. You're telling them, we're going to do Q&A in a minute, and whatever words you want to say which fit with your topic, you say, would you be interested in learning more about A or B or C? Have you got any questions about X or Y or Z?
No.
And, okay, anybody in the room, because I'd be delighted, because your question might be really helpful to other people in the room. Something I haven't thought of, something I haven't put across well enough. Please ask me a question so I can give you more details. That's it. They will flood you.
Yeah, I have a bunch. So it's social media thing. And so I put on Twitter, I'm like, hey, speaking in a couple weeks, let me know if you have any questions ahead of time. And I've gotten like 20 or 30 so far in. Do you think it would be like easy to work that in and be like, hey, all right, so we're gonna open for Q&A in a couple minutes. I have some questions from Twitter ahead of this, and one or two, and then that gives.
Oh, Jess, actually, extra. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally, I've done those. If I've had questions through, or beforehand, I announce it at the beginning of my speech, and I actually say I've had questions beforehand, and I'm going to try and answer these through. And for those at the end that I haven't quite answered, I'm going to come back and answer those as well. So you're actually telling the audience that you've already prepped for it beforehand as well.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Two other bits on the same point, but really advanced ones. Thanks, Sind, for reminding me of this. One of the things to say at the beginning is to say to the audience, think about, prod you as well.
Anyway. Yeah,
okay.
Think about the audience.
At the beginning, you say, might think of questions during my presentation. If you do, please remember them, because they might be covered later on, but they might not, in which case you can ask me them as questions at the end. So listen out for your questions being answered during this presentation. Okay, so you get that one in right at the beginning. So they're really going to listen attentively. Yeah?
Yeah.
And because you've told them you're listening to them, they're going to be taking notes and thinking about what you're doing. So they're going to be really wide awake. They're not going to do a Fergus and fall asleep, because they think, oh, I'm going to have a chance to say something later on.
Yeah.
And it might be covered later on, or it might not be. So keep a note of your question, because I'm really interested in your questions. What you're doing then, you're stroking the audience in a good way. You're telling them that they are important. Mm-hmm. Which is the most important thing in the room, of course. They are the important people. And one thing I say, and I know Fab and Cindy will agree with this, and you will as well, Jess, it's obvious, really. If I've got 100 people for 1 hour, okay, that means I've got 100 hours of other people's life experience in my hands. Mm-hmm. Does that make me privileged? Yes, it does. Yeah. I'm there for them. They've given me that. Oh my God, thank you, all of you. I love you to bits. I want to share stuff with you for that hour, so that at the end, you think he's given us some really good, helpful stuff. Yeah. Otherwise, don't do it. Really. Oh, you do that at the beginning, Ian. At the beginning, you say, I want to listen to your comments. You might have questions, you might not, but you might have things all the way through. So just think and listen and take notes, and I'll talk to you later about it. You got them in then, because that gets them set up for the Q&A session, you see.
I like that. Yeah.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah, these are great actionable items.
Yeah.
So I'm so used to doing like small groups where it's like all talking and like interacting, and like I have a format, but I'll like stop partway through and ask questions that nerds, but I'm excited.
No, that's good. That's good. You might try and do that. There's sometimes the only thing you have to be aware of that when you try and interact with a larger audience like that, sometimes you may not be able to see anybody or bounce off anybody, or in actual fact, the front row, they might all have their hands up when nobody else behind them has their hands up. So just be very careful when you start doing things
Someone
like that.
goes rogue and takes it over.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to jump out so someone else can come in, but thank you so much for your advice. I'm going to keep on listening. So thank you.
Our pleasure, Jess.
Thank you. Now, we've had some good things at the side here. I've had another Louisa who said that she's an author, and when she has a book presentation, she always prepares something, and she never says what she planned. Then she doesn't remember what she said until she reviews the video and actually like what she said better than the original plan. Now, I think that's a brilliant thing to do anyway, whether the organizer's reviewing you and videoing you, but always make sure you're videoing yourself anyway, because that's a fantastic way to find out whether you're one of the speakers behaving badly because you've gone off script. And if you can, another trick to do is if the organizer is videoing you and you've got access to 2 video cameras, have one videoing you and another one videoing the audience at the side of the stage in the kind of wings if you can, so you can actually get their reaction to what you're saying. So on the video that's viewing the audience, you'll hear you, And then you can actually watch your face and your body language and what was happening to see if that's also having an effect on your audience too at the same time. I've seen that one done too, and that's quite effective.
And I've got to jump in there, Cindy. I know I've said this before. I'm sorry to be technical, but do not use the microphone that's built into the camera. Please, please don't. It won't work. Have a wireless microphone that you're wearing, and either take the soundtrack from the sound desk and mix it with your video, or have the receiver for the microphone plugged into your camera so you get a really good soundtrack, because people care about sound.
Now you're just being very techie again.
No, I'm not.
But they'll have to go and look at the other blab on that one, won't they?
Yes, they will. They'll have to go and watch the other blab, all about the techno.
The techno. Yes, absolutely. Now, there was a brilliant question here earlier by Alex, and I'm just going to read out the question. I've been invited to speak at a massive event, but they won't let me sell my books at the event.
Yeah, I want to talk about that one.
For some strange reason. How do you recommend I connect with the audience? Some kind of giveaway? Now, is Alex still in the room? And if he is, would he like to actually just pop in quickly to explain?
Yeah.
And
hi there.
Brilliant.
Hello, Alex.
Hi,
Alex.
Nice to see you.
Talk to a bit more about why they won't let you do the book, because that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of them is an event at a college. For some strange reason, they have, I guess, rules and regulations on what they allow to sell to the students and things like that. The other one is, and I'm in the United States, probably you figured that out by my accent, but the other one is at a Rotary Club, which I don't know if those exist over there.
Yeah,
but apparently this guest speakers at Rotary Clubs are not allowed to sell or even sell their business or anything at those events.
Okay.
So interesting situation, because I'm an author and that's kind of my platform,
Yes. No. That's okay. Do you want to kick off, or would you like me to?
I'll kick off on this one, because I've done a lot of front of the room sales and back of the room sales, but Rotary as well. What you do when you're up there, you talk about your books and your products, right? And you have them on a table next to you. Now, you're not selling them, are you? You've just got them there with you, okay? That means after you finish your speech, people can come up to you and ask to buy your book, or your 2 books, or 3 books, or 4 books. And you weave in points, which I cover in Alex Rodriguez #1, which I cover in Alex #2, which I cover in Alexy Waxy #3. And you just drop those into your speech. So people think, wow, I want to hear more about this. And then at the end, it's up to them if they buy, because you haven't pitched, you haven't sold.
That's genius.
Absolutely.
I know. And also, what you can do, if you want to really go well, okay, now this is a very sneaky one, and it works very well. Okay, everybody listening, call your friends in. This is really, really, really sneaky, right? Okay, so you've got 2 or 3 copies of each of your books or products on the stage with you, okay? So during your Q&A stuff with the audience, whether it's in the middle of the speech, at the end, it doesn't matter. Somebody asks you something which you think is really good. They don't actually have to be very good, but you can say, that is a really good question. And you answer the question, and then you take a copy of one of your books and hand it to somebody at the front. Can you please pass this back to that person?
That was
it's a gift for them.
That was mine. That was what I was going to do. No, actually, having run events and also been with clients, there have been a lot of clients that say, we don't want the books. A couple of reasons. Schools over here, some of the colleges and universities, they don't like the idea of the author being in competition with the books that have been approved for the kids, so that they don't go off topic and learn something different for their curriculum. That's their main kind of big thing. And some of the ways to get around it is you just have a couple of copies and you literally do pass the book back, making sure it touches as many people as possible on its way through to the guy at the back. But also I've known others that have actually gone to the head of the department and got their book approved to be on the reading list.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when it's on the reading list, that's something completely different.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And also give a copy to the library.
Yes,
so if you're not allowed to take a book in, which is what Sevilla was saying, is if you're not allowed to take the book on the stage, then give a copy to the library and say, look, I'm going to reference this to the kids in my speech, etc. Is this okay? So they're aware of it. And give them 4 or 5 copies. Doesn't matter. And even make a gesture of making one to the actual librarian themselves. And give them lots of thanks and lots of praise. Understand their job that it's, okay, might be boring for you, but for them they're finding it interesting, but find. And even go and explore who and where your book would be on their bookshelf. Just to get to see who your competition is, really, and how they would see you and what your competition is, so you know what you're up against. But more importantly, you can then reference that again back to your audience and say, look, I've left several copies in the library, go and have a chat there and go and have a look.
This is brilliant. This is awesome. Now, I love the sneaky trick that you mentioned, about passing the book along. Now, I would think that creates an avalanche of demand, because everybody that sees that gesture is going to say, wow, now I want one, just like this guy would. So I was kind of fighting with this idea of whether to, do a second appointment, like a meet and greet the day after or something like that, or should I just avoid that completely?
Alex, no. What you do, Alex, I'm jumping in here, Cindy, sorry. But what you do is you say to everybody in the room during your presentation, if it's got to be towards the end of your presentation, not the beginning. Right. But you say, if you want to know more about what I do, give me your email address and I will email you, and I'll give you some free information about my books and other stuff. Now you've got them outside of the college. You've got as many of them as possible to give you the email address or business card at the end. Now, another thing I used to do, I don't even bother to do it now, which is ridiculous. But the other thing, you can't do it in your situation at the moment, but you can do it in other situations. And I've done this lots of times. You have a tub that collects business cards, and they've agreed to be on your list. And one of the people in that tub is going to win a free copy of one of your books, CDs, DVDs, doesn't matter. One person is going to be drawn out at the end. Now, what that does, it stops everybody from buying anything at the beginning, because they think, well, I might be the winner. But at the end of your speech, you get somebody from the audience to pull out a card and say, Fred Smith, you've just won a copy of Alex Rodriguez #1, free. Right. That person is then given their copy of Alex Rodriguez #1. Meanwhile, you've got all their email addresses, and they all want a copy of that book or CD. They all want,
especially with the Rotary. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's very cool. One thing I was planning on doing was having people submit their email, or go to a landing page, submit their email to download the slides and to download a longer presentation on one of the subjects.
Yeah,
I would always watch for the longer presentation, because there's a lot of people out there that don't want the longer. I'm finding that if you say it's a tip sheet, that seems to be going down very well with, if you want this and you just need a reminder that you can just stick on your wall by the side of you, then here's my 10 bullet points, go and download them. Because people, remember, time is the commodity here nowadays.
Top 10 tips.
Yeah.
That's really good, actually.
And because one of
a number.
Do you know why they're calling you in, by the way?
Why they're calling the Rotary Club?
They're calling you in to come.
Well, I mean, I have some kind of profile here in the community, so they found me and they invited me over. It's kind of as a consequence of my book, because of what it's reached and stuff like that. But it's just strange that I guess they have their rules and regulations.
Yes, but you always need to start with the end in mind. Is ask why you. Because, okay, you might be in a nice bit of a fan base, but you don't know why they've actually asked you to come in. And it could be that you're assuming that you're being asked in because of your book, but in actual fact, you might have done something else that just struck a chord with them. So always start with the why.
Yeah.
What do they want from you?
Yeah. Well, in the case of the college, I have that clear. I know what they're looking for. But in the case of the Rotary, I think that their meetings in this particular chapter is well attended by entrepreneurs and business owners, and because that's kind of my topic, they just want, they're more entrepreneurs, kind of old school and things like that, so they want new ways to promote their business, and that's kind of the connection.
Excellent. Well, in that case, then, if it's all about new stuff, then you've got to go through the new stuff and actually show them the new way of doing things, which is short, sharp, and straight to the point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this is great. These are great tips. I appreciate your time.
Excellent. Is there anything else we can actually help with?
No, I'll keep listening. I'm going to step out, but I'll keep listening to you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm following you guys also, by the way.
Brilliant. That's what we like. Okay, Alex, thanks.
Thank you very much.
There's a point related to this. A presentation I did about 5 years ago. Cindy's known me for about 10 or 11 years, so she knows my whole life story, and I know hers. When she was a young, dewy adolescent with no children. She's now married with 2 kids. Okay, fine. But I've known, anyway, Cindy for years. Okay, Cindy, there's a day of the year called Valentine's Day. Yes?
Is it?
And
sorry, I'm married. I don't know about these things anymore, but yeah.
No, but you used to when you were young, before you became an old married lady with 2 kids. Okay, sorry, I'm being cruel here. I can get away with being cruel. Actually, speakers, okay, you can actually be quite nasty if you're very careful. Now, Cindy is a very good friend of mine, and so I can really take liberties, and she'll phone me up and have a go at me if I go too far.
It's all right. No, I'll just roast you here. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, right.
Go for it.
So here's a story. Cindy doesn't know this story yet, but she knows that I had a lady that I married and then I divorced. But when we were first married, you know Marcus de Maria, I think, Cindy. I gave him some training years ago. Anyway, there was a Valentine's Day event when, this is what's funny, he and I had married on the same day, right, to different wives. Okay. Mm-hmm. So me and Marcus had both married, and we were both asked to give a speech with our wives on stage for an event on Valentine's Day. I thought, okay. Now, I've written and created lots of audio CDs, okay? Mm-hmm. 6 of them. 2 of them are doubles, and the other 4 are singles. So I thought, well, I could actually write a CD, and I did think about this, how to get the woman of your dreams into bed, how to get the man you like with you. And I thought, no, I can't do that. It's too cheesy and dirty and nasty. I could do it, but I didn't. So what I wrote was Love and the Voice, which is one of my CDs, okay? So it's 38 minutes long, and I spent a lot of days learning to write it because I didn't understand how to write a CD very fast then, which I do now, which we might cover in a later session, if they're very kind. If everybody begs us, I might cover it. Anyway, so I wrote this CD. Now, it's 2 days before Valentine's, and my fiancée lives very close to Heathrow Airport, and I think most people have heard of Heathrow Airport, and it's very loud, because she lived in Ealing, so the airplanes are flying over all day. I had to record this Love and the Voice CD quickly for it to be reproduced, to be sold at the event where I was going to do a speech, and so was Marcus, okay? So he didn't have a product, I don't care, but he didn't. But I did. I wanted to make money from it, okay? I wanted to make lots of money, right? So I was spending days writing this and planning it and working out the background music for different bits, because sometimes if it's all about love, you do need some good background music. Mm-hmm. So I worked out the music and I wrote the words, and my ex-wife said, okay, I'm going to bed now. And it was midnight. I said, I'm so tired. I'm really tired. No, don't be silly, Fergus. You've got to get it ready for the morning. She was right, actually. Hated it, but she was right. So come 2 in the morning, I sat down at the microphone, exhausted, and I thought, I've got to do something to make this work. Now, remember, I've told this story to an audience, and I'm going to mention why I'm telling it to you now and to everybody now, why it worked, why it's special, okay? I didn't tell a story of any of the other CDs. I just told the story of this one. So 2 a.m, I was exhausted. So what I did, I listened to some very high energy music. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody dance now. Boom, boom. And I got really, got really hyper. Right, 2 a.m. Right, I'm ready to record it now. Okay. Have you ever, right, so I recorded the whole thing. Okay.
On a hype voice.
Yeah. Okay. So I had the recording because I knew I could edit it the next morning when the airplanes were flying over, because it wouldn't matter because I'm just editing, okay, and adding the background music and everything. So I went up to bed, and the ex-wife, who was just a fiancée at the time, said, "Have you done it?" I said, "Yeah, I've done it." And I lay down next to her, and I thought, this is not going to work. This is really, really not going to work. So I went back downstairs, and I thought, this is terrible now, but I've got to get it done tonight for the reproductions for 100 copies to sell at the event, okay? I wanted to sell. Okay. So I went back downstairs, and I listened to a bit of it, and it made me cringe. Have you ever? I thought, oh, God, no, this is awful. It's terrible. I've got to calm myself down now, because I was so high energy, having listened to all these high energy music tracks. Yeah.
You forgot your own rule.
Yeah, I broke every rule. It was terrible. So I took a large glass of red wine, right?
Whilst you're tired.
Yeah, no, I was hyper. Remember, I was hyper.
Okay, right.
So I drank this huge glass of red wine and sat there and waited. And after about 5 minutes, I thought, okay, I'm in the zone now. Have you ever listened to somebody's voice, and the more you looked at them, the more beautiful or handsome they became? Thought, got it. So I re-recorded the whole thing after a large glass of red wine, right? And went to bed and crashed, right? Mm-hmm. I got up at 8 a.m, listened to it. I always get up at 6 now, actually, but I got up at 8 a.m, and it was perfect. It was just so right. I mixed all the background tracks. By the time my ex-wife got up at 9:30, I have to say, right? I had a master disc, and I sent her off to the duplicators. And by that afternoon, bless her, she had gone there, and they were all copied up. They were all in cases with covers, and I sold quite a few copies that day. Okay.
Fantastic.
And it's my lowest selling CD of The Voice, okay? Mm-hmm. However, the story I've just told you, and everybody listening, and I hope you're all listening very carefully, right? I told that story to an audience of 70 people when I was doing a presentation for Christopher Howard, of sort of success resources type, Tony Robbins type person. Okay. Every single person in the room bought a copy of Love and the Voice after my speech. And I asked them why, and they said, we wanted to tell how drunk you sounded. But I sold 75 or 80 copies of that disc, which never sells.
Oh, brilliant. But it does only ever sell when you tell the story, though.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Because they're listening for the drunken sound in my voice. Have you ever? It's not bad, really.
No.
But the point I'm making here, because I identified that particular disc.
You've given
during
it
my speech.
Yeah, you've given it a story. You've given it a hook, because the one thing that they will say is every time they play that story or play that or even look at that disc, they'll remember the difference and how powerful the change of a voice can actually be. And that story is a good hook. So in actual fact, what they've just bought is that memory and that trigger point, if nothing else. But
because the voice has got to be right for the story. Yeah.
But you have made a very, very good point, which is another thing about speakers behaving badly is bad tat product. You know,
what's that?
Bad tat products. It's when they do bring it along to the events and they're selling from the stage, and when you actually look at the quality of the products, it is so tat. And you think, oh my God. And then they put a price on it because they think that reflects the value of the content, not the value of what it looks like. And you think, oh, right, okay, if it was really worth that amount, then you'd actually like to put the value of it of yourself by getting it created properly.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I'm looking at my lovely new green screen here, which is an old green screen, but I've just put it on a frame that I can move around everywhere because I've got green screens all over the place. And that makes me anonymous in a way, but it makes me look really professional, which is true because I am.
It's better than the background you had before. You know, I love the background before.
Yeah, the shirts hanging on the corner of the door don't really work.
No, it's the ones on the radiator, but we won't go into that one.
Oh, the T-shirts on the radiator. Not. Yeah.
Anyway.
Luckily, there was no underwear. Anyway, what behind me, I could put a row of my CDs. That would instantly be cheesy. You've got to be careful not to go too far. On stage, when you're doing a presentation, if you've got copies of your products on stage with you and you don't talk about them at all, you might reference in my book ABC, in my book XYZ, they're on display to the audience. What happens is that during your speech, they get used to the sight of your products as well as you. And so you're not threatening them at all. You're just having it there with you. That works. It works very well. And there was something else you said just now, and I've forgotten what the wonderful answer was to it. So I'll wait until it comes up again. Oh, pizza is playing things. Yeah. Oh, pizza's gone. Right.
Yeah, I love it. Never mind.
When you associate people with things, as you've just pointed out, if you associate your thing with them, then they want more of you. That's the way to sell.
Absolutely. But going back to a point that Sevilla made earlier, she and like a lot of people try to actually read from their presentation, from their book, and then make reference to it being bought or selling it afterwards. Now, the most powerful part I have seen with books is when somebody is actually reading a passage from it, but it's actually relevant to what the point you're making or relevant to the audience. And if it is a powerful passage or a powerful bit of writing that you've just read out, people will come up afterwards and say, where did you read? What book was that you read from? And that's the point where you can then say, oh, that was my book. Here you go. Would you like a copy of it?
Yeah.
And you only need to do one or two of those, and you've got people hooked from that viewpoint. Unfortunately, there are a bit of a fad going on amongst some of the conference organizers to actually say to speakers, we've got this stage, we've got 1,000 people in the audience, come along and plug your book for free because it's 1,000 people of your ideal people. There are speakers that are falling into that trap and thinking that they can use that time on the stage to simply say, I've got this book, I've got that product, I've got this training, and come along, here's 5 minutes worth of my information, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because if you buy my book and if you buy my training course, I will give you so much more. And they use it like an infomercial, you know, like one of those you find on television selling Hoover products and steam cleaners. And unfortunately, when speakers have been set up like that, that is them coming across behaving badly, because they're allowing the conference organizer to dictate to them how they are to present themselves. And if you know your own product and you know the value of it, you wouldn't cheapen yourself to do that. You take command and you say, no, I'm going to make sure the audience has a great experience of me. I don't care if they have a bad experience of you in the conference, because they'll remember the conference hall, they'll remember the food, and they'll remember who spoke to them, either great or bad. I'm definitely not going to be the guy that remember being the bad speaker.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Or the pitcher.
Pardon?
Or the pitcher. The person who pitched.
The pitch.
Nobody likes to be pitched at. Now, people love to buy, but they don't like being sold to. Big difference. Yes. I do a lot of sales and marketing training, as you know. And you probably know Richard White from Academy days years ago. Richard's sweetie.
The reluctant salesman.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, and he does what he calls pull selling, which a lot of people do. And pull selling is to get people to buy because they want you, not because you push something at them. Very different.
Absolutely, which is actually now more and more a brilliant skill set to have, especially in days of social media, and the more that the marketing is having to be more niche and more targeted. And I'm finding that there are a lot of speakers coming into the market and that think that their topic is applicable to everybody. Everybody needs it. And everyone's going to pay a top dollar for it, and everyone's going to want it. And that's when, again, they've got to really actually just remember, speaking is an extreme form of marketing. You can actually end up in a very bad place talking to audiences that are never going to buy your product, never going to buy you, but giving you stage space because actually you're filling a slot on a event organizer's time frame that they need something to happen with their audience. But actually you're not really going anywhere fast and you're spending a lot of money doing it.
One of the things I do, as well as like giving things away on a lottery and giving things away to somebody who's good in the audience, which keeps them all motivated and ready to be the next person to get a free CD. You don't have to do two, you can just do one. But all the others are thinking, oh, I want one of those as well. Okay, that's to get people really biting your stuff. And that's subtle, but it is sales and it's their choice. You don't force them to buy. You don't say, you need to buy my disc, you need to buy my book. Why didn't you come on my training course? You can say, now there's a group in London, which is pretty widespread now. And I used to be one of the organizers of it, the Yes Group, okay, where people go and do speeches. Now, what they instituted after I'd left the board and after I'd stopped doing it, which I really agree with this bit, okay, so I'm not criticizing them. At the end of your presentation or speech, the MC says, have you got anything special for the people in the room tonight? And you get 5 minutes to talk about special offers. But you can't do it during your speech at all. And the MC asks you about it at the end. He said, yeah, well, actually, I'm selling all my stuff at the moment at half price for people who are here tonight.
Yep.
Who's going to say no? They think, oh, I've got to buy it. And also, what people need to remember to do with selling, okay, if you're at the back of the room, one, you need somebody working with you, and Nigel tells me about this as well. He's had the same thing. You need somebody on your table, right?
Yep.
Selling stuff for you, because when you come off stage, you get what I call the swarm, and other people call the stampede. Lots of people. It's
the buttonholers.
Yeah. Well, you're sort of covered in angel dust because you've been up there for 45 minutes or an hour and a half, and they think you're sort of God, which you're not, of course. You're just the same as them. And they want to talk to you and with you. They want to be in your entourage. They want you to
only if you're talking to the right audience on the right subject and you've actually hit some of their right reasons why they're listening to, which is the action points. Yep.
Which I always do, of course.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what the audience is. You need to know who they are, though, which has been discussed a lot.
Absolutely.
You need to know who the audience is and target whatever it is for them. Anyway, at the end, you get a bunch come up and they really want to talk to you and they want to make a step. You have your person on your table ready to take names and orders and purchases. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, I can't buy tonight because I haven't got any cash with me or a credit card. Can I get the same discount tomorrow? No. Because I've tried saying, yes, you can have it tomorrow if you send me your email address. They don't buy. It's in the moment they will buy. You need to be ready, set up, to make it as easy as possible for them to buy products or services right now, tonight.
Absolutely. But then you've also hit another point, which is when they do have the table, and if you don't have somebody else there helping you, it's amazing how many books go walkies.
Yes.
We've had that before.
I've had discs disappear.
Yeah. Yes.
At one event I sold, when I was talking about that love and the voice, at the end, there were 70 people there. Now, you were talking about speakers. You can speak and you can sell. I was asked to do a speech in short term, within 24 hours. Could I do an hour and a half session? Yeah, of course I could. At a big venue. I'm not going to even say anything more about it because I don't want to identify. Anyway, I was not charged 50% of all my sales.
Oh, yeah.
Time.
No, that's another conference organizer trick, isn't it? Yeah. Anything you sell, we want 50% off. Yeah.
And the same organization about a year later I went and did another presentation for them in the West End of London, and I sold so many discs you would not believe. I was very, very happy. And I took them with me, and I handed them over. And they handed them to the people in the room. And then they went bust. And I didn't get a penny.
Goodness. No.
I lost £3,000 worth of discs.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Big ouch. Should have got your money up front.
What, for the sale of the products?
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to be selling any.
Well.
And what they did as well, what they did was, you have to wait 60 days before we pay you in case the credit card thing or PayPal or whatever is reversed.
Oh, right. Yeah, those old things.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'll never do that again, so people need to watch out for that.
But you have actually brought on a very, very good point of another bad speaker in a badly behaving speaker, is when you do go to an event and they run straight out the door. They come off the stage and they're gone. That for me is like incredibly rude. That's your prime time. People want to buttonhole you, talk to you. And if you don't build that in and you don't give that time, then actually, to be perfectly honest, it's losing your prime time, losing the connection to the audience. And in actual fact, you convert more champions and your potential sales that are in that buttonholing time afterwards. And the other thing is, when you do and you are being buttonholed, how you actually pass the hogger on and how you pass them on nicely. You know it, when you come off the stage, you've got 10 people trying to talk to you, and there's one person who's going about their granny and their dog and an old story who you've resonated. It's a comment and observation. It's actually not a question. You know it's not a sale going anywhere, but they just want to tell you their life story because suddenly you hit a nerve with them. And you've got 9 other people who you know, just one of them might be the buyer. It's how you pass those guys on. And I've seen some rude people.
I've had that, and it's really bad. You say, no. And they say, Fergus, you're a Royal Shakespeare Company. I did some Shakespeare at school, and I loved doing Shakespeare at school, and I was very good. And I went to amateur drama classes as well, and I actually went to a drama school as well. And so I really appreciate what you were saying about Shakespeare up there, and I'm really loving Shakespeare because I can do bits of Shakespeare. And then they'll go, now is the winter of our discontent, make glorious summer by the son of York, and all this out. And I said, fine, great. Hang on, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of other people who want to speak to me at the moment. I'm ever so sorry. Thank you very much. Can I just move across to the next person? Thanks. That's what you've got to do. You've got to close them down, those ones.
Absolutely. We're talking about closing.
Yeah, I know.
You know that we've gone on far too long yet again.
I know. Well, I hope everybody loves it and will come back next time and will send us lots of money at some later date.
Oh, no. But what we will do is we'll have to do this again and pick up a little bit more about we'll talk a little bit more offline, but sort of like follow up on a bit more of this badly behaving and how to actually get the best on the etiquette of conferences.
Oh, I like that. The etiquette of conference speaking. But it's too many characters, isn't it? But
well, yes, but we'll work that one out, won't we? Speaking etiquettely. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And you've been a great crowd. And I've loved the comments and the questions throughout. That's been wonderful. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, everybody, for joining in and listening.
You've been listening to a podcast by the Guild of Speakers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help us to get our message out. If you would like to know more about the Guild of Speakers, go to guildofspeakers.club or scan the QR code below.